Hello and welcome to Beyond the Box Score. I am your host, Cameron Sadeghi, and we usually take a big look at the media in sports. We talk about other things, right? We talk about, announcers, reporters, and we go on and on and on, and especially myself, I talked about on this show about the NFL maybe having a slow death. I've talked about all of these topics, right? All of you who have listened to my shows know that, and for some of you who have not, this show really tackles topical issues in sports, whether that is the way the baseball games, whether or not they should be, if the game should be finding ways to speed up the game, whether or not, things like that, issues with concussions, and I can go on and on and on about how, we've mentioned those stories in the past, but I think today it's a totally different show. And this is going to be on iTunes. I'm going to try to get this on iTunes here on Spreaker.com and transfer it over Beyond the Box Score National Sports, everyone. And you know what's been going on. Domestic assault case after domestic assault case. Adrian Peterson. Child abuse. Jeff Taylor of the Charlotte Hornets just a few days ago. Sexual assault. You've had commentator after commentator, announcer after announcer talk about the issue. Goodell should be fired. Goodell should do this. Goodell should do that. You've heard all the pundits. You even heard about Bill Simmons on the BS Report, Grantland, ESPN. He got suspended for 3 weeks. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about CBS Sports, the classy, one of the greatest broadcasters we have, James Brown. I'm going to share his eloquent domestic violence message. All-female sports talk show. It's called We Need to Talk. People are complaining about the title of the name. Rightfully so, but the talent is definitely upper echelon compared to a lot of shows. I'll talk about that. And this is kind of a funny article. It's not that bad. It's by Dave Tobiner of The Outside Corner. It's a baseball website, and it's how to speed the game of baseball. I'll talk about that. It's kind of a weird article, but there's one thing I like about it. I'll explain. But first, the most important thing, and I think we should start right at the James Brown commentary from CBS. I'm going to read the transcript from NewRepublic.com. This is what James Brown had to say. It was the first Thursday night football game, okay, between the Ravens and the Steelers, the first Thursday night football game of the year. James Brown, you know how CBS and NFL Network, they are partners, and CBS is a broadcast partner of the NFL. It took a lot of guts and a lot of journalistic integrity on the part of CBS to do this. You had the Nora O'Donnell interview the day before with Roger Goodell that really exposed the league, and you don't see broadcast partners do this, okay? So let me read this to you. James Brown of CBS, okay? This is what he had to say. This problem is bigger than football. There has been, appropriately so, intense and widespread outrage following the release of the video showing what happened inside the elevator at the casino. But wouldn't it be productive if this collective outrage, as my colleagues have said, could be channeled to truly hear and address the long-suffering crisis for help by so many women? And as they said, do something about it. Like an ongoing education for men about what healthy, respectful manhood is all about. And it starts with how we view women. Our language is important. For instance, when a guy says, "You throw the ball like a girl," or "You are a little sissy," it reflects an attitude that devalues women, and attitudes will eventually manifest in some fashion. Women have been at the forefront in the domestic violence awareness and prevention arena, and whether Janae Rice considers herself a victim or not, or in my opinion, I think James should have said the word survivor, I'll get into that, millions of women in this country are. Consider this. According to domestic violence experts, more than 3 women per day lose their lives at the hands of their partners. That means since the night February 15th in Atlantic City, when the elevator incident occurred, more than 600 women have passed away. So James Brown makes some great points on CBS. You know what? I'm so tired of... I love what James Brown had to say. But why aren't more media members doing this? I'm talking about the broadcast partners. I'm not talking about CNN. I know Rachel Nichols has done an incredible job on Unguarded. It's on CNN. I really suggest you watch that show. She's the only woman right now on primetime television who has her own sports show. She does an absolutely incredible job in the way she is interviewed, from the DeMaurice Smith interviews to questioning Goodell in the press conference. She's done a good job in holding people accountable, okay? Why aren't more media members doing this? Why is the NFL Network, and I know the NFL, they run the NFL Network, I totally get that. But you can't tell me that it's okay for NBC to not be talking about it in this type of fashion. Where are the commentary pieces like James Brown? Where are the Norah O'Donnell interviews? We're not talking about the issue of domestic violence. We're talking about the Ray Rice issue. And the Ray Rice issue extends further than sports. That's the problem. We're focusing too much on Rice. What I think we should do as media members, as pundits, as fans, as people who love the game, we should look at the issue, that the Ray Rice incident and the Peterson incident and the Ray McDonald incident, and you know what we should say? We should say, let's talk about domestic violence. Ray McDonald was accused of something horrible. Ray Rice did something horrible. Adrian Peterson did something horrible. Let's talk about what they did and how we can fix it in America. And a lot of people right now, and athletes, I think, I want to make this clear, okay? Because I've been talking with family members, it's become such a hot topic. I mean, Charles Barkley was on CBS, the NFL Today. He was with Jim Rome and talking about Peterson and how, all these things, and our athletes role models and all this stuff. And in my opinion, I think we really need to break that down too, and which we're going to do right now in this moment. Are athletes role models? In my opinion, they are. Whether they like it or not, and I felt like Barkley made the commercial. Look, I like Charles a lot, but let's be completely honest here. He's no model citizen either. He's got a few DUIs, okay? He's definitely not going to win a Nobel Peace Prize anytime soon when it comes to Barkley. So, of course he's going to hide behind that commercial. Really? Come on, Chuck. You always talk about how candid you are, but you can't. Don't you dare go on the air and try to almost protect athletes. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I didn't like what Bart Scott had to say either. Because you are a role model. I mean, Tony Gonzalez said, yes, we are role models. I mean, Bill Cowher, Boomer Esiason. And let's be completely honest here. There are kids in America who, they do not live in a two-parent household. They live in broken homes. There are kids in the inner city who they need to look up to somebody. And when that somebody's on national television every Sunday, or they are on a big network, big shows, big this, entertainers, rap stars, athletes, of course they're going to look at them as role models. So for anyone to say, well, athletes aren't role models, that's just complete garbage. That's just complete garbage. I can understand how one may argue that athletes shouldn't be role models and parents should, but the reality is that's not the case, okay? People's circumstances are different, and athletes shouldn't try to create excuses for their poor behavior. And I know Barkley has good intentions, and I get that, and I do have a lot of respect for Charles, and I know the DUIs are just completely, I mean, he's done a horrible job, I mean, really conducting himself at times. I mean, gambling at casinos, thousands of dollars on the table, really doesn't create any good examples for kids. But I think he has done some good things. I'm proud that he's very aware of social issues, and he's willing to speak out on it, and he's willing to find compromises. So I always respect that when it comes to Charles Barkley. And my mind, I was preparing for this podcast, right, and whenever you talk about this issue, it leads to so many other things. Your mind just starts going into 1,000 places. And I mentioned the role model part. Now I want to segue into the media here. And the media, they are role models too, okay? People really, and I know you as the listener may not agree to this. And I always hear listeners and people always say, oh, we hate the media. The media never does anything right. It's always the media's fault. Well, why do you tune in every time? It's your choice to turn on ESPN. It's your choice to listen to me right now. So, yes, have many media members done a poor job, of course, but let's make sure we understand that it's not 100% the media's fault, but there are some media outlets that have done things wrong. And I am so disgusted by the broadcast partners. And it begs the question, does the NFL control broadcasts? And I know that's a wild claim to make, but it's a fair argument. Because if you look at other sports, let's go to golf, the Masters, right, on CBS. Or it's ended its run on CBS. Numerous amount of times they've controlled broadcasts. Announcers have been suspended for saying things about the course, criticizing the players, criticizing PGA, and they've been booted off the air. Bob Costas went on the Dan Patrick Show talking about how much, the PGA has controlled the broadcast and how the Masters is just a complete, it's almost like, I hate to say this, but it really is. It's almost like the mafia. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to take back what I said. Golf broadcasts you can't get anything more controlled than that. Boxing broadcasts. Are boxing broadcasts controlled? Yes. HBO, they have complete power. Showtime. You say anything bad about the sport, the judging, and people talk about how boxing is rigged. I can understand why someone would say that, but I do agree that the broadcasts are controlled when it comes to boxing. Okay, let's move on to other sports. MLB. No. NBA. Yes, when you talk about referees, whenever you talk about referees when it comes to the NBA.